Alright, so for my file, I have my application, which is called PIXELSCAPE, which is the landscaping application. So for mine, for this prototype, I just kind of focused on how people use the editor and how the editor works and the functionality of that, and then a few different extra screens. So for this, click New, opens the new file menu. You have file name, presets. Presets are like profiles you can basically save that have preset information for file setups that have automatically determined width, depth, and then dimension measurements, and then grid settings. Since all the textures snap into a grid, you can change the size of the grid, which then changes the size of the tiles. So for this, let's say we have a file called front yard, and we're going to use the preset apartment 1, which then changes the width to 25 and depth to 100, and changes both of these from yards to feet, and it keeps the grid snap setting to medium. So then you click OK. It takes you to this main screen, which is the angular view. This is more of like a preview screen. So you can see this is just default, like a green grass texture. People will be able to use these arrows to alter the axis at which they view the preview. Most of the actual editing will be done in the top-down editor view, and then you have notes, which the user can enter notes about the landscape stuff here, which will be read later, and the output, like plan file or whatever. So we click here, go back. So for the editor, since I wanted to show that like the grid can be changed by the side, I set it up so that the user can swipe out from the left side of the screen and bring up this slider view. I have this set so if the user slides up, it makes the grid bigger. If they slide down, it makes the grid smaller, so they can have a bit more control over the actual design and how textures are being placed. So if we want to scroll back up to the mid, and then click back out to the normal top slide. So here, the bottom navigation for like the textures and the flyout menus are at the bottom. So if they want to mess with all the different textures and stuff, so you have grass, gravel, pavement, garden, building, etc. These show up in like flyout menus. You can hit the X, close it. You can just keep moving through them. So you have kind of the same design as in the last couple of prototypes, where this flies out. You have a scroller that you can scroll down. You have all the textures here that you can click on, which these will be corresponding to real life things that you can get from like Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever. So in garden, they would have all sorts of different plants. So I set up like a hypothetical situation inside the editor. So you can see these are just placeholder icons with, it just says texture, but so like for the hypothetical, I have it set up so when you click, it shows what this might actually look like in a finished version. So you have ferns, aloe plants, azalea bushes. So let's say we want to add a fern. You click this, it auto-populates a fern, which is auto-selected here on the editor screen. Which when a texture first auto-populates, this editor menu then flies out with the rotate buttons, a lock button so that you can lock this texture so it won't be messed with, duplicate button, delete button, and then a cut button, which kind of functionality purposes, since this is grid based, what happens is when you press this, it cuts this in half. So then you have a triangle, like half portion of this rectangle or square or whatever. So it says, this little note that I added says hold finger on the texture and then drag to a new location. So once this is selected, you can just hold your finger and then drag it to where you want it to snap on the grid. So move that here. So say we want to reselect it, you would just take your finger and tap it and then hold, and that would bring this editor menu back up. So let's say we want to rotate it, we can rotate it 180 degrees, rotate it 180 degrees back. Let's say we want to duplicate it. When you duplicate, the same texture is duplicated, so that the new texture populates right next to it, and both will be selected. So click here, and we have this note. It says, well, both pieces are selected, you can move them together. When both are selected, you can move them the same way as you would move a singular tile, where you press and hold until they're selected and then drag both of them, if that's the case. But so let's say we move them and say we want to deselect. I have it set up so when you hit that, it takes you to this note. It says user can double tap a single piece to deactivate the selection to the piece they wish to use, then double tap on the specific piece they wish to select. So like, I mean, you can double tap to deselect and reselect whichever one you want to use. So let's say we want to use this, we double tap to deselect and double tap back. So let's say now we want to delete this, we delete that one. So now we're here, say we want to lock this one so it won't be changed or messed with. We can then click the lock to lock the selected texture tile from being edited, so we'll lock that. Let's see, so now to set up kind of like a hypothetical situation, we have this here or whatever, but I'll just move through this. So like etc. This will have random things that don't fit into these categories. So for the example I chose to use, I wanted to show like a kind of like a pond or koi pond setup. So like this would be like random textures. So like say we wanted to add water, or water texture would be in here since it didn't fit in the rest of the things. So we click here and this would auto-populate a water texture, which comes in a rectangle. Say we want to duplicate that, and duplicate it again. Then we can click here to select this one or whatever, just like how I explained before. Let's say we want to have this be like a round, like little pond instead of obviously just like a square pond. When you have this selected, you can click this button and it will cut it in half. So now you have a triangular view. So this might look very kind of rigid when it's being worked on through the actual application, but let's say you want to rotate it. So now that we rotate it, it kind of gives like a little bit of curvature. So when they see the plan, they see that it's supposed to be kind of like a rounded side to this pond. So now let's say we want to go back and select this. And we'll say let's duplicate it again. So now we have kind of like a portion here. And then say like you've been using the editor for however long and you kind of know your design. You move things around and get things situated, and you end up with your hypothetical design, which we have here. You have like a pavement or tiled pavement walkway up to a pond with the back end just surrounded by these ferns, and then you could have like a koi pond or something like that. As you see here, this says this is a hypothetical design. So that was pretty much it for the editor with what I showed with this prototype. The other two things that I showed was like the save function and then the actual plan document preview that you can see like the plan that's generated for the actual landscapers. So let's say you swipe down from the top like how you would use a normal mobile device. It drops down this menu. Let's say we want to save the file. Click Save. Brings up the Save File menu. You can drop down here to move through folders, or if the folder is in a subfolder of the one that you're in, you can just double tap, go here. You have the files here. We say we enter the name, file name, front yard, save it as a PIXELSCAPE file. Click Save. You save the file successfully. Click OK. Now let's exit the program. Would you like to exit now? Yes. This takes us back to the home screen, which in theory, this would actually take us back to the native OS for the mobile device. And then once you reopen the application, you can go back in and open the file. And it shows like the top structure or hierarchy of like the folders associated with this or device or how you move through it. Say until you have a file selected, the OK button is deactivated, or you can cancel and go back. Let's say we go here. Let's say this was front yard dot PIXELSCAPE file format, blah blah blah. So we select this one and then click OK. reopens the file that we just had. Now let's say we want to view the preview document for the landscapers. We click swipe down and then go to export, which then we are given all sorts of options. We can preview the documents, find a landscaper, which this option was kind of more prototyped than some of my other versions. Email files or cancel. So let's say we want to preview the document, and then this brings up the plan, which the landscapers would then use to kind of base everything on. There's like a preliminary like kind of like layout of like how things are supposed to be situated. You have your textures, you have the username for the account, the file name, location for the location that's being landscaped, notes from the user. This is auto-populated from the notes page within the application, client information, which is attached to the user account, and then this stuff, which is entered into the actual file, which would show like the dimensions of the yard and stuff. Then when you're done previewing the file, so you know what the back end of it looks like, you can click OK. It takes you back to the home screen, and then you can exit because it's all I have prototyped for this one.